Welcome everyone. This is the second Acre workshop, and I am Matteo Matteucci, and this is the agenda of today's meeting. Um, After a brief recap of the workshop rule and the agenda, we will go immediately to describe the metrics project within which the Acre competition is going to happen. Then I will present the Acre competition from a general perspective, and we will dive into the detail of the Acre dry run after that with Daniel Bofferty and Manon Boulet. We will have at this point, it will be more or less 11:30, something like 20 minutes of Q&A about the competition and the dry run that will happen this year in June. But I will not, uh, let's say, spend too much time discussing the agenda. We will see it several times today. I would like to open this workshop by giving you a brief introduction to the metrics project, which is the project within which this competition is happening. So I'm asking, please, my colleague Riccardo Bertoglio to display the video where Guyon Avri has presented and introduced the metrics project. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for participating to this presentation. My name is Guillaume Avrin. I'm head of the evaluation in AI department at LNE, the French National Laboratory for Metrology and Testing. The basic observation that is driving the metrics project is that there is a real need to evaluate AI and robotics technologies in order to bring the supply of such system closer to the demand. Because we know that suppliers and equipment manufacturers are providing black box, sometimes non-convex, evolutive intelligent system, whereas end users are looking for trustworthy and efficient functionalities. So there is a need for end users to be able to choose between different technologies that are entering the market, to benchmark them with reliable measurements of their performances in order to select the best solution for their companies. And for suppliers, there is a need for third-party testing and conformity assessment to improve these technologies and drive R&D efforts. So one of the main objectives behind the metrics paradigm is to make sure that robotics competition are more than one of demonstration and adopt the form of repeatable and reproducible scientific experiment based on metrological principles. Thus, the first step of the project is to develop such an evaluation methodology, capitalizing on the consortium past experience, providing a rigorous and quantitative evaluation of intelligent system. Second, the reliability and validity of AI algorithms are at the heart of European concerns. This requires the competition to address both the behavior of the robot and the behavior of its AI algorithm. So the metrics is combining robotics and AI competition to mobilize both communities and to develop smarter and safer robots. Finally, our priority is to make this competition relevant to the needs of the industry and to maximize the take-up by the European AI and robotics communities. The project is collaborating with digital innovation hubs, clusters, and external sponsors. To carry out this project, Metrics brings together 17 European organizations specialized in the evaluation of artificial intelligence system and robotics system, and the main European player in the organization of robotics competitions such as Chirog, RoboCup, Rose Challenge, and so on. An advisory board, including the NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology from the US, and the Queensland University of Technology from Australia, as well as a robotics stakeholder boards of more than 10 members, are ensuring the sustainability of the initiative beyond the 3 years of the project. Regarding the organization of the evaluation campaign, each competition will last 3 years with 1 dry run and 2 official evaluation campaigns, so as to estimate the order, so as to estimate the technological progress through the competition and provide short development and test loops. The evaluation method used to evaluate the performance of an intelligent system be it a complete robot or specific algorithms, is always the same. It involves comparing the output of the system being evaluated, their prediction or behavior, with reference responses defined by human experts. And metrics are used, which are mathematical formulas, are used to quantify the difference between the output of the intelligent system that is evaluated and the reference response from the expert in order to measure the performance. So each metric competition includes functionality and task benchmark. The task benchmark investigates the performance of a robot system when executing a given task, for example, to fetch for a glass of water when asked by a human. The execution of the task therefore requires the use of several functionalities of the robots. And the functionality benchmark investigates the performance of a robot component when executing a given functionality, meaning a unit of capability that is too low level to be useful on its own to reach a goal, for example, to understand the fetching order, to detect obstacles, and so on. This breakdown of benchmark addresses the evaluation need of end users, integrators, equipment manufacturers, allowing both to verify the overall performance of the robot and to identify the technological parts to be improved. For each competition, Metrics is organizing both evaluation campaign in physical environments with physical testbeds targeting the robotics community, and evaluation campaign based on testing datasets called Cascade Evaluation Campaign and targeting the AI community. The datasets used during the Cascade Evaluation campaigns are produced by the robots participating to the field evaluation campaign, for example, images for object recognition. Thus, each Cascade Evaluation campaign is interspaced between two physical environment evaluation campaigns. Thus, the 4 metrics competition are implementing this common evaluation framework. However, the task benchmark and functionality benchmarks that are considered are different between the different competitions. The HealthMet competition, for example, in the health area, is focusing on assistive robots, whereas the RAMI competition in inspection and maintenance of infrastructure is considering inspection autonomous robots with an underwater track and aerial track. The Acre competition in agri-food is evaluating weeding robots, and the ADAPT competition in agile production area is considering collaborative assembly robots. So how to get involved in metrics competition? Well, you can do it as a participant. What does it mean? It means that you can register to the competition you are interested in by sending an email to the organizers, and you will have access free of charge to the evaluation tools made available by the consortium during the evaluation campaign. It will allow you to have your system evaluated by trusted third parties and to position this technology in relation to the one of the other participants and to set up new collaborations. You can also be involved as a sponsor. It means that you will help us drive the competition through sponsorship with cash or in-kind contributions, and to define the evaluation criteria and testing scenario so that you make sure that this competition and evaluation campaign are relevant to your business current and future needs. To do so, you just have to send an email to the Metrics Consortium. So thank you very much for your attention, and don't hesitate if you have any question.
You're muted, Matteo.
Yeah, Matteo.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this introduction from Avrim about the metrics project. If someone has a general question about the metrics project, Anne here can answer. Otherwise, we can continue with the presentation. I mean, don't hesitate to make question at any time. Raise up your hand or switch on your microphone. If there are no specific questions, you can also use the chat, obviously, for making question related to some presentation. If there are not specific questions on the metrics project, I would like to continue introducing the specific competition that today we are presenting, which is the Acre competition. And the Acre competition is one of the 4 competition within the framework of the metrics project. So it shares many of the ideas that Agri-food has presented so far. In particular, the focus of the Acre competition is the evaluation of robots for autonomous weeding as an alternative to the use or to the extensive use of chemical products. Among the partners of the metrics project who are involved in the organization of the Acre competition, we have Politecnico di Milano, the Institut National de Recherche pour l'Agriculture, l'Alimentation et l'Environnement, l'Università degli Studi di Milano e Laboratoire National de Métrologie et de l'Essai from France. The idea of Acre is based on the idea of robots that need to recognize weeds and destroy weeds in a very precise manner. We do not restrict the means of destruction. This means that you can use either mechanical devices, electrical devices, or any sort of devices that you would like to use. The idea of this specific competition dates back to another project that was established a few years ago and which is reaching its end, which is the Challenge Rose, in which 4 teams were asked to perform similar tasks to the one that we are going to present during the Acre Challenge. So what does the Acre challenges involve? The first task that is required, the first capability that is required to the robot in participating to the Acre challenge is perception. Perception means to be able to detect plants and weeds and discriminate which one are plants and which one are weeds. The second perception task is more related to the agronomical use of robots, and in particular to the leaf area or biomass area estimation. The second capability that is required for the robot to work actively in the field is navigation. Navigation means to move from one place to another, either during logistic transportation or because of crop mapping or with distraction. And last but not least, we have interaction between the robot and the environment, which we go under the general idea of actuation capability, which could be the weed distraction, or which is a specific capability, or a more integrated task, which is the full autonomous weeding. These benchmarks will be described later on more in detail by another presentation when introducing the idea of the next dry run that will happen in a few months. What is a dry run? Well, Acre is organized in dry run campaigns where the benchmarks are set up, fine-tuned, and prepared, which are open to participants, and 2 field campaigns where the benchmark fine-tuned and prepared during the dry run campaigns are stabilized and executed as a real field experiment. We have also 3 cascade campaigns, as Guillaume has introduced before, where we used the data acquired during the field campaigns to perform specific tasks. So in short, a field campaign is performed publicly. It is open to the public and involve physical robot doing the physical benchmark. The cascade campaigns are data-based challenges which are open to AI robotic competitors which happens online. Well, the original schedule of the project has been a little bit changed. So the first dry run was foreseen for last June, and it has been moved to October because of the well-known COVID issue that has arrived at the beginning of last year. This first dry run was executed at Montoldre in France by INRAE and LNE, and has set up the first environment and testbed for benchmarks like weed destruction or plant discrimination, and for the navigation challenge, where a robot has to follow a straight path but also non-straight path. Here in the video, we see one robot from CETIA who participated during this dry run, performing this navigation task with straight trajectory and not straight trajectories. After the first dry run, there will be a second dry run, which is the main focus of today's workshop, that will happen again in Montoldre in France, and it will happen this June. It is open in a sense that participants are allowed to come and execute the benchmarks, and will be involved in shaping or refining the benchmark that will be then executed again during the next field campaign in June 2022 and in May 2023. June 2022 and May 2023 are tentative dates, while, as we will see in the next presentation, June 2021 is already well defined. The first field campaign and the dry run, as I mentioned, will be executed in Montoldre. More detail to come in the next presentation. And they involved two main crops, green bean and maize, and 6 main wheat plants. The second field campaign will be performed in Italy, in Cornaredo, which is near Milan in the north of Italy, and it will be most likely executed in May 2023. Again, this is a tentative date. We will update you with more detailed information as soon as we get close to that date. In this case, we are interested in extending the type of crops that will be, let's say, used during the benchmarks, and extend the type of weeds that might be executed. Since this is a competition which we are planning in 2 years from now, the discussion is open, and we can interact with the prospective participants on which kind of crops and weeds they might be interested in. Obviously, I mean, they have to be adapted to the soil and the specific field that we have in Cornaredo. After the field campaign, and thanks to the field campaign, we collect data sets to organize the so-called Cascade Campaign. The first Cascade Campaign happened after October, from October 2020 until the end of January 2021, and I will report on what happened during that Cascade Campaign later on during the workshop. It was a sort of dry run to figure out whether it was possible to run online campaign open to several participants out of the data collected during one of the field campaign of Acre, and we will see later on that the answer is obviously yes. The online competition is targeted to robotics and AI communities. We would like to make these two communities as close as possible, and because of this, we would like to have these based on data sets. So people that are not directly involved in robotics, people that do not have robots but are able to build capabilities that can be used by a robot to perform the task can do that successfully. The first Cascade campaign that was dry run in the last month was based on the plant discrimination task, based on the data that we will acquire on the dry run during the dry run that will be in June 2021. We will be able to build new Cascade competition tasks. As the first campaign started before, first Cascade campaign started before the actual field campaign this October, we used data sets that were already available thanks to the project ROSE, which was already collecting data thanks to the INREAE and LNE participation. The idea of the Cascade campaign is to increase the participation to the competition, to the challenge, also online. Because of this, we will have 2 additional Cascade campaigns. One will be next September, and the second one will be on the September of 2022. I will give you more detail about these Cascade campaigns at the end of today's workshop, because today I would like to focus on the first field campaign, which will happen in June this year. It is a dry run. What does it mean? It means that it is meant to fine-tune the benchmark, which then will be stabilized for 2022 and 2023. So it is a campaign, it is field, it is an opportunity to shape the Acre competition for the next years. Okay, because this is the Acre competition dry run of this year is the core of the workshop of today, I would like to leave the stage to Daniel Bofferty and Manon Boulet to present the dry run. And after their presentation, which we expect to last 20 minutes more or less, I will have a question and answer session where all of you will be invited to ask questions, make proposal, and share your interest with us. So I will leave the floor to Daniel. So Daniel should be able to share his screen.
Okay, Matteo, thank you. I share my screen.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
It's okay?
Yes, you can go full screen.
I need in full screen. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I am Daniel Bofferty. I work with Manon Boulet at INRAE Center of Montault in France. And we will speak about the Agri competition and Acre competition, in particularly Acre dry run field competition. This Acre is Agri-food competition for robot evaluation. And particularly, we'll speak about the Acre dry run field competition in the first dry run field campaign. This dry run field campaign is open to teams from all around the world. With particularly focus on autonomous weeding robot to reduce or eliminate the use of pesticides, and it's with a particular for the largest potential for environmental, societal, and economic benefits. The performance evaluation is based on an objective benchmark, and this dry run field campaign is organized in June 2021 to firstly to test and adjust the different selected functionality and task benchmark, and secondly to obtain data set for the dry run campaign dry run Cascade Campaign. It's a campaign in post-treatment by means of recorded image in the dry run field campaign. And this Cascade Campaign will be organized in September 2021. More details and information on this benchmark execution are in the evaluation plan online on the website of the European Project Metrics. This dry run field campaign is organized from June 14 to 18 to 2021, corresponding to the weeks 24. This dry run field campaign is organized on Agro-Technopole site of INRAE of Montauban in France. And this dry run field campaign is organized on the experimental field. Is the main field of 4 hectares, and the main condition of the soil are the sandy soil with stone, not stone. It's a suitable condition for evaluation experiment in real condition. For example, to test a new autonomous solution, navigation, weeding, implement weeding robot. And with this experimental field, we have several technical building handheld to welcome the participants with their equipment. For example, prototype, autonomous solution, smart implement, robots, or other implements. The Acre dry run field campaign is a campaign with the experimental field, and the experimental field is the core of the experiment. And this experimental field, we have a main step, with several important agricultural work, as soil work, seedbed preparation with aid treatments, sowing of crops and weeds at the same time, and other intervention to, for example, watering of the sown plot after the sowing. All this to obtain optimal experimental condition and to have taking into input agronomic and technical elements, weather condition for the regularity, the homogeneity, and the repeatability in the test plot for all the participants. With this, for this dry run field campaign, a network of observation are also available to inform about the actual condition in the experimental field, with several sensors, wireless sensors, for example, weather station, scheduled image capture by means of Raspberry box or Raspberry case to observe the crops and the weeds. And for example, another point to measure the different depths of soil with humidity, temperature, for example, at 2, 5, 10, 20 centimeters of depth. And all this information can be available in a wireless system on FTP site. This dry run field campaign will have an experimentation with crops and weeds sown in same time. For this, 2 main crops are retained. For example, for the field grain crops, maize, and for field vegetable crops, bean. The main characteristics is for maize, inter-row spacing with 75 centimeters, and for the spacing between the plants in intra-row 15 centimeters. For beans, this is the vegetable crops. The inter-row is 37.5 centimeters, and intra-row spacing between plants 7 centimeters. And for the main weeds retained, we have retained with 2 types of weeds. For we have horizontal development spread out, or the vertical development erected for. The model weeds for the first type is mustard, and natural weeds is matricaria. And for vertical development weeds, The first type for model weeds is ryegrass, and the natural weeds is Pinopodium. For the sowing density is adjusted between model and natural weeds. For model weeds, take into account southern grains weights to have 27 seeds by meters in length of the line of the row. And for the natural weeds, the preconization of the provider of the seed, the Arbiotech Society, and with different adjustment in relation with the variety of the weeds, to have density by 100 meter or by square of 10 meters square. After this, the specific of functionality and June, the next diagram campaign will be presented by my colleague Manon Boulet.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. So I'm Manon Boulet. I work with Daniel at INRAE. Do you want me to share my screen instead?
I don't stop.
As you wish. I can share my own screen if you want.
I can't stop.
Yes, Manon, share your screen. I will go on instead of Daniel directly.
Yeah.
I don't stop the part. The screen.
I will. I will. It's fine.
Yes. Yes, it's good. It's okay.
All right. So I will now introduce you to the benchmarking through competitions methodological framework, which has been incorporated in the Acre project. In a nutshell, it is based on the definition of two types of benchmarks, functionality and task benchmarks, which I will from now on call FBM and TBM. FBMs are focused on specific capabilities of a robot and are designed to make the benchmark as independent as possible from other features of the robot, whereas the TBM are carried out to evaluate the execution of complex tasks involving multiple functionalities. These functionalities and tasks can be tested and evaluated according to the wishes of each participant in the campaign. 3 FBM have been selected for the 2021 dry run field campaign: plant discrimination, weed destruction, and field navigation. We will now look into each of them. For this FBM, plant discrimination, the main goal is to differentiate crops from weeds on an intra-row by the use of sensors. This step is mandatory for the autonomous weeding task. From each sensor, the images obtained allow a classification of the crops and weeds present in the intra-row. After human analysis, the plant classification can be compared with ground truth or reference labeled images. On the right, you can see an example of the imagery result, with the crop, in this case maize, being outlined in red, while the weed, here the mustard, is outlined in blue, making the difference between both startlingly clear. Moving on to the weed destruction FBM now. The main goal of this benchmark is to destroy the weeds in an intra-row without damaging the crops. On prepared plots, crops and weeds are visually marked. Blue markers are used for the crop, yellow markers for the weeds. After the robots pass on the plot, results before and after weeding are compared. With the help of visual markers, this evaluation is independent from other functionalities. The comparison allows for a more accurate assessment of the effectiveness of the weed destruction and the impact on the surrounding crops. The field navigation benchmark aims to allow navigation through rows of crops without causing damage to the plants. For this third FBM, a specific environment needs to be set up. For small experimental plots are prepared and 2 are sown with 2 rows of maize, which can be seen on the left of the graph, and 2 are sown with 3 rows of bean on the right of the graph. 2 plots are sown in straight lines, whereas 2 others have a curved part in the middle to create a row shift. The robot is assigned a destination and has to reach it autonomously. The final evaluation takes into account the accuracy of the final location, as well as the overall damage dealt to crops. Moving on now to the TBM selected for this year's dry run field campaign. There are 2 of them, intra-row weeding and crop mapping, which we will now see more in depth. The goal of the intra-row weeding is to perform a fully autonomous intra-row weeding without the help of visual markers. The weeds among the crops must be eliminated without damaging the crops. At the end of this task, the number of destroyed weeds and uprooted crop plants are assessed. This way, we can assess the effectiveness of the weeding and the impact on the crops. Both crops and weeds are counted before and after the task's execution. The last benchmark I will present to you is the crop mapping TBM. Its aim is to produce a map of a multi-row plot, therefore giving information about plant localization on the whole plot by the use of relative coordinates. After the map is produced, it is compared to a ground truth map generated by human experts. To conclude this part of the presentation, I will now let you know the participation conditions for the 2021 dry run. Participating teams will have to pick among the 5 benchmarks I have just presented and test those benchmarks to identify the possible issues and collect data for future campaigns. The deadline to register has been set on Friday, April 30th, which is next week, or May 28th, depending on the registering team's selection regarding the weed destruction and intra-row weeding benchmark. Thank you for your attention. All right, so now we will move on to the Q&A session, I think.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Manon. Sorry. Yes, thank you, Daniel and Manon. We can go on with the Q&A session now. This means that I would like to have a participant ask questions about the different topics that we have faced so far, in the sense that if you want to ask about the overall structure of the competition, if you want to ask about the restriction on participating, if you want to ask about all the details that you would like to know, I think this is the right time. So please, if you want, just open your microphone. You should be able to speak, switch on your camera. As I said, I will be happy to have an interactive workshop. We have even saved some time, so we have more than 20 minutes to answer all your doubts. I see that some people are writing on the chat, so I think that we can break the ice with the chat, but don't be shy. I mean, I'll be happy to see your face as well. So there is a question which says, can you tell us of the age of the plants after the sprouting and potentially the expected height of the maize? So I'm forwarding this question to Daniel and Manon, who are setting up the field this year. I don't know if Daniel or Manon wants to answer this question. You have to. Okay, thank you, Daniel.
Sorry, Matteo, do you repeat the question, please?
Yes, the question is the age of the plants.
Age.
Age. So how old in terms of days they are after the sprouting, and the expected height of the plant of the maize.
For all the experimentation, we have today, but we rise the experimentation after 2 or 3 weeks after the sowing, and the maize is young, perhaps 6 or 8 centimeters. The size is not 15 or 17 or 1 meter. It's not this size. The size of the maize is a small maize.
So less than 10 centimeters almost for sure. So I hope these answer your question. Obviously, it depends also on the weather conditions, and
yes,
that's one of the main issue of dealing with the plants and life object. But yes, that's the target. This is also useful for the setup and design of your robot or appliance. Any other question, doubts on the either on the competition or on the dry run?
Yes, I have
Yes.
a question.
Yes, please.
What was the result of the Rose Challenge? There were 4 teams. Is there a winner? And how many teams are involved for the next dry run competition?
Okay, so I will answer the first one, then I will draft an answer for the second, then I will forward this to Daniel again. So the Rose Challenge was a French project, sponsored project with 4 teams, and it was more related to only part of this task. There was no winner. There was more a goal of evaluation. It is not yet concluded, so I cannot even tell you who was the best evaluated. And it was somehow a closed national project in a sense that was not open to all Europe, and in principle, even outside Europe. On this, we can discuss a little bit later on. So basically, in the Acre Challenge, we are open to all the participants that register. We don't have a restriction. We will have to set up some limit because of the space and so on. We haven't yet decided whether there will be space for 2, 5, 10, 20 teams, but a rough idea. The reason is because we didn't want to put a limit without knowing the expression of interest, because if we have 20 expression of interest, probably we are not able to accommodate them all. But a rough idea of how many teams, maybe Daniel can elaborate on this and give you an input. About how many teams we will have in the dry run. Daniel?
For the Rose Challenge, the next and the end evaluation will be in June, and today we have not the result because all teams continue to develop their application, and it's not finished for you, and we continue to have an evolution of the different techniques in in this context of this change road, we must wait the result of the next and the end of this change.
And how many teams are you expecting for Acre in Montoldre this year?
So maybe I can add something on this because
yes,
I am managing the registration form. So no, yes, if we want to know the exact number, we received 10 expression of interest for the 21 dry run field campaign, and also some other, possibly more for the 22 and 23 field campaigns.
Okay, but how many do we allow? Because I don't know if we can have 10 teams this year, but this is not. This is on Daniel.
Matteo, Ricardo,
yes,
it's Michel. So,
thank you, Michel.
hello, everybody. I am working with Daniel and Manon and all the team of Acre. And what can I say about, in fact, it's full open to every teams we will be interesting to participate to the Acre challenge. And for the dry run in June, it is the last slide presented by Manon. And it depends, in fact, about the FBM or TBM that are selected by the potential participant, by the potential team. In fact, if they choose only FBM about plant discrimination and also, for example, field navigation, no problem to wait until, for example, I think it was end of April in order to be candidate. But that's right. If they want to participate to the, for example, to the intra-row wedding with the destruction of the row, it is necessary that we have the registration as soon as possible. So, for example, I think it was written the end of April, beginning of May maximum, in order to plan and after to adapt our field in order to welcome all the participants. I think it is the main practical idea in order to welcome the teams we will be full interesting.
Thank you, Michel. Indeed, there is another question which says there was a deadline Friday next week, which is the 30th of April. We can extend it a little bit, and this is the reason why we did not put yet this deadline on the website, because for all the tasks which imply the destruction of the weeds, this means that we have to sow enough. So today was also to know how many people are willing to participate, and based on the interest, let's say, plan the sowing accordingly. So the idea is that by the next week, or at the latest the first week of May, you have to express your interest in those TBN, like weed destruction or intra-row weeding, which require us to prepare the plot for you. Based on this number, we could say that we will allow up to 4 or 5 teams, I don't know, 10 teams. If you are just interested in the plant discrimination or the navigation where we can reuse the same plot, you can wait until the end of May to express your interest, because basically then it becomes only an issue of preparing the schedule to let you assess the field and not to prepare the plot. So again, how many teams we will allow? I think that up to 10 with no problem if they are only interested in plant discrimination and navigation, because we don't have to sow too many, let's say, plot for the experiment. If you are interested in the with destruction and intra-row weeding, you need to express your interest with us by the end of next week or the following week at the latest. We can allow also the first week of May, but then we have to sow the plots. Otherwise, you will not find any plant and any weed to work on. Our let's say expectation is that not all the 10 teams, thank you Ricardo for reminding us, which have expressed their interest in the dry run will do the weeding and will do the weed destruction. There is another question, where is the link to register? Well, right now we collected your willingness to participate with the registration to this workshop. After the registration of this workshop, we will publish and we will send directly to you the link for expressing your, let's say, expression of interest. We didn't want to overload you with the links because with expression of interest, we will also ask some details on maybe the size of your team, the type of equipment you would like to use, if you have peculiar needs like storing your equipment or charging batteries if it's fully electric, and so on. So we did this in 2 steps, and since we were up to today interested in your registration to the workshop, we didn't give you already the link. But that's why we ask your registration. After the workshop, we will send you a form during this weekend, providing all the input to state your participation and your, let's say, I will not call them requirement, but your wishes for the setup. Other question, doubts, please?
Hello.
Yes, thank you.
I was wondering, in the video you showed for the field navigation task, it seems there are some yellow markers on the field. So can we use this for navigation?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
Thank you, Daniel. No, but Daniel will give you more detail.
No, no. For field navigation is a benchmark. It's an independent benchmark, and the condition of the plant is a natural condition. Bean or maize or bean in the same row of natural sowing in the field. But we.
So if I'm not wrong, that video was shot in October, and the yellow marker actually were the plants. Because the yellow marker were the plants which were not totally developed during the test. In June, there will be hopefully green.
In October, the condition is a special condition.
Yes, it was very stressful. But to answer your request, what you will be given is the GPS endpoints of the plot. This will be given to you. So if you rely on GPS landmark at the end and of the starting and the end of the plot, this will be given to you. In case of a slanted plot, the starting of the curve and the ending of the curve will be given as well. This year, we decided to give you this information. So teams which are relying on GPS waypoint can do that. The GPS waypoint will be given with respect to one static, let's say, reference point, which will be on the field. I hope this clarifies better the benchmark. This gives me a great opportunity. Thank you for the question. On the Matrix website, and I will give you the pointers as well, there will be what is called the evaluation plan. The evaluation plan gives you more details on how the task will be evaluated and what are the information you are provided and you are requested from us. Once you have expressed your interest and you have registered, now we have a direct link and we will be able to answer your detail. Strange but very easy details. You will require to give us images, well, the format of the images and things like that. We will try to be as less intrusive as possible with respect to your current software. So we will try to accommodate also what is in place already. Okay, there is another point on the chat. I receive also direct message on the chat, so I relay them to you. So that's why sometimes I'm looking on the screen. So what if you are not interested in participating, but you know someone that is interested in participating? Good. Point them to the YouTube video of today's workshop, which is going to be recorded, and just point them to the Acre email that I will show at the end of today's workshop, and we will give them all the information they need. I mean, we are very open and willing to include as many teams as possible. Another question that might came to your mind, and which I take this opportunity to answer, is there any restriction to companies or research institution or student teams? No, we are open to any participant. We are happy for companies to participate. Because of this, especially in the dry run, there will be no public release of anything. But we are open also for research teams to show their result and their, let's say, robot. This year, as we mentioned, the goal is to do a real field campaign, but allow for adjustment in the preparation of the next year campaigns, which will be fixed at that point, since we have used this event, this opportunity to fine-tune them. Okay. Other questions?
Matteo, question
Yes.
from Roberto, I think, because we see Roberto
Okay.
just a few minutes ago
okay.
launch his camera, so perhaps you want to say something to us. Thanks.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you very much for interesting presentation. I had a question which was partially already answered. Maybe more detail about the possibility to interact with the procedures which will describe the conditions according to which the metric experiments or the metric tests will be prepared. So can we expect that something will change from the description that will be provided or is already available from here to the, let's say, 2022 test or maybe 2023 test? We will be particularly interested in understanding if there will be evolution and if this will be part of a discussion of the community participating into the.
Our willingness is yes to do this. It is somehow a trade-off. So for sure, this dry run is the opportunity to shape also the evaluation and the rules for the 2002 and the 2023, because we are doing this first dry run exactly for this. But the 2022 challenge will not be exactly the 2021, because there will be a feedback from 2021 and maybe other feedback in September, October, November, December, with the stakeholder that might suggest changes and improvements. I will make immediately an example. As I said at the beginning, we expect the plots in 2023 to be more and different from the 2021. We might introduce a salad, we might introduce a zucchini. If we figure out that there is a strong interest for a specific culture, extending the one already present, why not? I mean, on the other hand, we don't want to change every year everything. That's the trade-off I was talking about. But yes, please, if you have ideas, a suggestion, do not hesitate to interact with us. We are pretty happy to hear your feedback. That's why, as I said at the very beginning, I want this workshop to be very interactive, but I want this workshop to continue after all. So just drop us an email. I will leave you our email, Acre email, at the end of the workshop. You can find it on the Metrics website already. So yes, please feel free to contact us and we can try to shape. Obviously, for this year, there will not be change with respect to what has been planned, because we are close to so, and because it is already thought for making some changes and adapting. So yes, we are open to some.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, we cannot take, I must admit that we cannot take any input. I mean, cultures and conditions are so different, but we will be happy to discuss about this.
Thank you.
Mateus, Michel, the question of Roberto is very important because, and your answer is perfect. And that's right that the aim and the ambition of Acre is to develop together, but together it's participant and Acre organizer, to develop together references to qualify the performances of a smart machine. And it's very important to have this kind of reference because, and to propose from Acre with teams involving, because the end users, the farmers, more and more ask for references. So it is very important that Acre with participant participate to the bidding of this kind of reference, but we have to do together.
Yes, thank you. There is another question. If there are any restriction on the robot size or the device and so on. No, in the sense that the restrictions are on the size of the plot. If your robot can perform the task on the size of the plot, we are pretty fine. We know that there are different robots size and shapes and so on. The idea of running this dry run and collecting as many input and as many, let's say, feedback from you is also to figure out whether we should shape those standard, as Michel was saying 5 minutes ago, in which direction. So yes, we are open to the size. That's why we didn't put any restriction on the plot, on the robot, but we stated the shape of the plot. Nevertheless, if you have a special condition for your robot, let us know. In a sense that if your robot needs a very huge space, I don't know why, but we need to know, otherwise there might be problem in setting up the space. So that's what we will ask in the link that we will send to you after the workshop.
If I can, I would like to
Yes,
add one small thing to the issue of feedback. If you know anyone who may be interested in participating to Acre in the next year, so not right now, but maybe in the future, it may be a good idea to suggest to them to interact with us now, because this way they can have a voice in the shaping of the future editions of the competition.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, by the way, I'm Giulio Fontana from Politecnico di Milano. I am a collaborator of Matteo.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other voice or microphone unmuting. So if there are no other questions, I will continue with the workshop. We still have like 20 minutes, and I would like to dedicate 10 minutes to discuss another topic, which is highly linked to this one, but the participation to the physical competition is the core point. So if at any time, for any reason, you get a doubt or a question, just drop it in the chat. I keep an eye on the chat at any time. Nevertheless, I would like to finish a little bit ahead of schedule, so we will have another option for asking questions, and I will give you all the pointers to get in contact with us even after the workshop. So if you don't have any specific question now, I would like to continue talking a little bit about the Cascade campaign. So what is the Cascade campaign? As I mentioned, during the field campaign, we will have a collection of data. So teams will be required to collect and share the data with us. This is also due to the fact that we will label the data to perform an evaluation of the, for instance, perception task, where you have to detect the plant. So since, as you have understood, we would like to shape this with the community, and we would like to reach one step at a time a level which could be almost a standard, we have made a dry run for the Cascade campaign. What is the Cascade campaign is a AI-based, robotics-based challenge, which is done online and which is targeted mostly to AI tasks for software and, let's say, image processing or data analytics. The first one was done in parallel with the first Cascade campaign. And the first, in parallel with the first field campaign in last October, from which you have seen some images. And it was launched during a previous workshop. If you're interested, you can have the recording of the workshop online from the Metrics website. And it was basically a workshop attended by 70 registered attendants and more than 200 people, mostly interested in AI, agronomy, and robotics. There was also someone interested in sponsoring, but most of the people wanted to participate, and we gave them already the opportunity to try out some of the benchmarks that were planned and that are planned for Acre. The first Cascade competition was run online from October 2020 until January this year. It started on the 17th of October, and we used the Codalab website. Codalab is an online platform for software and data science competitions. This allowed us to both evaluate the teams and to distribute the data set. It was fully open, was open on the web. We announced it during the workshop, so the attendant and all the people that had encountered the workshop, the recording, and has contacted us directly were able to participate to the competition. It was open to students and researchers. The idea of the competition was to focus on the plant discrimination benchmark, which is the same benchmark that we have during these dry run. So you can look at some of the images that we already share with you. And it was organized in two stages. So in the first stage, which was the development stage, in the development stage, we shared a training data set of images for the training of your algorithm, and a test set with no label. And people were, let's say, invited to develop the algorithm on the test and basically develop on the training and test on the development test. After the development stage, we released another test. So we released the labels of the test development, and we released the real test upon which we scored the teams. I think that the best way to understand this process is to listen to the voice of one of the participants. So I will ask Manon, if possible, to share the video which was recorded by one of the team that participated to the competition. Can you, Manon, share the video, please?
Yeah, I was getting it ready.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, wait, I didn't tick for the audio to be shared. All right, audio, and there we go.
Thank you very much.
Hi, welcome to the explanation of the solution that we have adopted in order to face the first ACRE competition. Let's start from the setup. In order to train our model, we decided to use the BIP and WIDLEC datasets in the first training phase, and all the 4 datasets, so also PID and ROSO, to accomplish the final fine-tuning phase. Each single dataset has specific intrinsic characteristics that we have tried to exploit in order to achieve a more accurate model. Let's see some of them from these example images. The first one that I'm showing is from the BIP dataset, which is characterized by images taken from the above with natural colors. The second one is from the WIDLEC dataset, which is pretty similar to the BIP one. The third, instead, is from the ROSO dataset, which is characterized by images taken from the above with unnatural colors, in particular with yellow and green lights. Finally, the fourth one is from the PID dataset, which is characterized by larger images taken in perspective with natural lights. During each training phase, the dataset has been split into 80% of the images for training, and the remaining 20% for validation. Since, however, the different datasets are characterized by images of different size, the step that we have done before the splitting has been that of resizing all the images to 1024 by 1024, thus having a fixed input size for our model. Also, the exception preprocessing input function has been applied, thus favoring the learning of the most characterizing features. Let's now talk about the model. As it can be seen from the current slide, the net is a classical encoder-decoder architecture, characterized by 4 skip connections. For which regards the encoder, it is characterized by 5 blocks taken from the VGG16 architecture and set as trainable. In particular, the first 2 blocks are characterized by 2 convolutional layers followed by a max pooling layer, while the remaining 3 are constituted by 3 convolutional layers instead of 2 and the usual final max pooling layer. For which regards the decoder, instead, it has again a depth of 5 blocks. The first 4 have all the same structure, and they are characterized by an upsampling layer for 2D inputs, followed by an add layer and a convolutional layer with ReLU activation function. The add layer is particularly important because it adds the results of the upsampling layer with the corresponding feature maps deriving from the skip connection with the encoder. The last decoder block, instead, differs in missing the add layer, and the prediction is done through a final convolutional layer with softmax activation function. The training has been divided into 4 phases, plus a final fine-tuning step. In particular, during the fine-tuning step, as previously anticipated, all the 4 datasets have been used. Executing the model on the given test set, we have achieved a global intersection over union of 76.05% and an intersection over union of 81.08% on the BIP dataset, which was our main focus. In all the 5 cases, it has been used the WCE dice loss function, which is a custom loss function that allows to account for the problem of classes unbalance. In particular, it allows to combine 2 approaches. First, it allows to use different weights for each class in the categorical closed entropy formula. And secondly, it implicitly considers the distribution of the classes. Moreover, during the whole training phase, it has been applied early stopping in order to limit overfitting. To conclude, we have also prepared an animated image that shows, in an interesting way, the learning process of our network. As it can be seen, the model is initially very inaccurate, and in fact, it confuses also the background class. With the increasing of the phases and of the epochs, however, it gets more and more precise, till reaching the best performance in the 5th step. Thank you all very much for the attention from the Azzini Maldini Moscatelli team.
Thank you very much, Manon. So this was an example of what was presented by one team of participants. But how many participants did we add, and how did it go? So we had more than 400 participants, 431, I think. They were more than what we were expecting, but the reason why we have so many is that I open up the challenge also to students of Politecnico di Milano, which are attending a course on deep learning. And now you see why this very, let's say, deep learning model was shown. And you see from this plot that the most of the participants at this ran were from Politecnico. However, there were 15-20% of participants that were quite distributed among other universities like University of Sussex, ETH Zurich, University of Los Andes, and other and some companies like small robot companies, or there was Oppo and some other participants. The launch was in October, and you see from this submission count and submission score that after a few weeks of competition, the highest level was reached on the development dataset. We had up to 200 submissions per day. We didn't put a limit on the submission. We wanted to stress the system to check whether we can, let's say, support hundreds of people submitting hundreds of results per day, and the answer is yes, as you can see here. For the next dry run, we will put some limits on this. This was to a stress test, and what we will see is that in a few days, also the submission score on the new data that was proposed increased in a couple of days and with a few submission, and it didn't improve after a few days. What I like to highlight is that we had also more than 50 submission during the Christmas day. Well, call it a COVID effect, I don't know, but I was kind of impressed about this thing. This is the kind of leaderboard that we had, and the winner was Zhong Hugu from the Southwest University in China. So as I mentioned before, we had opened up this worldwide. Most of participants, I mean, were from Politecnico, because it was not so advertised being a dry run, but we had significant participation. And then we had teams of students, one of which which is the fourth one, is the team that you have listened 5 minutes ago. Can we do better? How? Well, for sure, we could restrict the participation to, I don't know, a limited number per company or per institution, and enlarge the number of institutions. I would like to have more companies. I would like to have more people involved. And for this, we will advertise it on the same channel we are using to advertise the field campaign. But if you have ideas on how to improve this, including providing your data set, which might have some value, and you would like us to, let's say, extend this competition with your data set, we can talk about that. We are reaching the end of today's workshop, and I would like to leave you with some initiatives, which are the next steps of Acre. So first of all, we would like to invite you to participate. As we already said before, we would like you to help us in shaping the competition, participate to the field campaign, participate to the Cascade campaign. How to do that? Well, follow up with us. We will send you the registration form and request for interest in the next days. We will send you few emailing. We keep the mailing as low as possible. We know that you are interested only in important things, not in commercial stuff. If you have data set and you would like to help us or design with us an online Cascade campaign, feel free. We are happy to, let's say, work on this with stakeholders. If you want to sponsor the initiative, good. For instance, if you want to organize collateral events, if you want to help us in do some demo events, some scientific events in parallel to the competition, we are happy. The project is a European project which has found for the competition, but we would like to make this competition as a real event. So if you want to have an exposition, if you want to have demos, talk with us. If you would like, for instance, to sponsor some workshop during the event, we are more than happy about that. And whenever you think that you can contribute for the shaping of a standard in evaluation of agricultural robot, feel free to get in contact with us. We have already some activities, you know some of them. We have the dry run in June. We will send you a link to register for the dry run. We will keep you updated about that. There will be another Cascade campaign based on the data that we will collect on the dry run. There will be another field campaign in 2002 with the following Cascade campaign, and another field campaign in 2003. And even more, I mean, we might have workshop like this. We might have more workshop at conferences. We haven't done anything this year of this social gathering. I mean, you know why? Because of the pandemic. So we would like to have a workshop in presence. So my plan is to have next year also some presence at relevant places, such as the FIRA conference in December, for instance. So how to get in touch with us? Send us an email. Visit our website. We have asked your references during the registration to this workshop. We will update using your email from that about new workshop, about the outcome of the competition that will be in June, the dry run competition, and all the activities of metrics. I promise to keep 10 minutes for question at the end. Sorry, I was too long, but in these last 5 minutes, I will be happy to answer any question you might have. So just open up your microphone or just write your question in the chat so I can reply if you have doubts. while we wait for shiny people to come out, I would like to thank all my colleagues and partners in this project that have helped me in presenting this workshop. You have seen my face most of the time. And it's not because I do all the work, actually, it's the other way around. It's because we couldn't switch off. I'm asking, I would thank Michelle, Daniel, Manon from INRAE, Davide from Università degli Studi di Milano, Giulio, Riccardo from Politecnico, and all the people like Agnes, Anne, Guillaume and Virginie from LNE that helped me in shaping this workshop. I don't see any hand or any microphone switching on. I will not keep talking if not needed. So I will thank you again for your participation. I will leave the slide on for a couple of minutes for you to get the references, and I will be back to you with more details in the next days and with the links to the participation form. Thank you for your attendance, and see you in Montoldre physically in a couple of months, I would say. Thank you very much, and thank you for your prize on the chat. Thank you. Bye-bye.